for reasons of anonymity and privacy, we will refer to as the Neurodivergent Exec. And she is here with us and off camera, but on audio. So if you would like to say hi, the Neurodivergent Exec, hopefully everyone can hear you.
Sounds good, Charlie. And Toni, thank you very much for having me on. Apologies I can't be on camera, but we all know that I currently work in corporate and talk very candidly about the experience of being neurodivergent in the city. And I prefer not to get sued, and I'd like to keep my job.
Fantastic.
Love that.
So what we're planning to do today is to share basically our lived experience of neurodiversity inclusion at work, what it means to us, what rocks and what sucks. And it's only half an hour, and we don't want it to be a traumatic trauma dump of all the negative stuff. So it will be smash hit style. We're going to take it in turns to share something that was good and something that was bad. And I think this might be the first of a few conversations on this kind of theme, because the Employment Rights Bill is going to make some of the bad stuff unlawful, and we're going to have to do a lot of thinking about how to keep out of tribunals, because the tribunals service is ridiculously overwhelmed and it's only going to get worse. So I'm just going to share one first, and then I'll invite Toni and the Neurodivergent Exec to share. So one of mine, this was really good practice. So an employer decided that different people have different sensory needs at work, and they did a really detailed refit, a refurb, and liaised with all of the employee resource groups, including the Accessibility and Neurodiversity Network. And we had an architect involved, and what the result of that was sensory friendly workspaces. So some of them are light and airy. Some of them were more like kind of darker and like a library. There were areas with lots of plants, lots of sound absorbing walls. So that was all great. But what sucked was that I was then working on a project, so taken out of that environment and put into a room where lots of people were in the office, but in Teams meetings. So I could hear a noisy aircon, and I could hear lots of voices talking at once and with lots of echo. So it's like I could see the sensory friendly office, but I wasn't allowed to sit in it because I was on this project. So that sucked for me. And Toni, have you got one?
I have. This one came about really because out of my own frustration and the fact that I'd been let down on promotion a few times because the internal recruitment process was that you had to get through a numeric written time test before even getting an interview. And it's not strength based. It wasn't based on my capability of doing the role. And actually it made me realize if it wasn't just me that was being affected by this, the whole company of anyone who was neurodivergent, whether they're dyslexic, dyscalculia, whatever it may be, were potentially losing out on roles because they couldn't get through this ridiculous test, which timed you. It was written based mathematics, right? For someone like me who's dyslexic, it was absolutely horrendous, and it put people off. So one of the biggest inclusions that I see that they actually scrapped it in the end. That test got scrapped, and then they introduced another internet-based, but it was around about strengths. It was about values, which you can't foul in your own values. So for me, that was a huge thing that the organisation did, because what it did, it took away that barrier of people being scared or just not even getting an interview because of a test that meant nothing.
Wow, yeah. So that sounds like it really wasn't fit for purpose.
No.
Yeah. What I did say I was going to talk about as well before launching into the what rocks and what sucks is what neuroinclusion means to us, actually. And to me, it's about understanding the concept of neurodiversity, that every single human brain and mind is unique, that we each have our own unique needs and preferences and things that will help us thrive. So treating us like automatons and with a one-size-fits-all recruitment process is a really good example of a neuro-inclusion fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
The neurodivergent exec, would you like to share what neurodiversity inclusion means to you and what rocks and sucks?
Yeah, definitely. And I'd like to pick up on one of your comments there, Charlie. And I think it's around ask me, right? ADHD, I manage RSD, PDA, alexithymia, a whole plethora of exciting things in my spectrum. And I think one of the best things I ever saw was I had a new manager come in and he didn't really understand my special dispensation around not traveling during rush hour. And he challenged it. And then we had one morning where I had to go to a business meeting and I arrived off of the tube in peak time. He took one look at me and was like, we never have to do that ever again. I mean, I was frazzled, overwhelmed, overstimulated. He saw that it was going to take me a good couple of hours to right side myself from that. So I think for me, it's around looking at the individual, understanding what they want, and us not having to prove anything, right? Why have I got to prove to you? I find that really difficult. Why can't I just tell you? And I shouldn't have to show up in distress for me to be able to get those accommodations.
Absolutely. Yeah. So believe us is one of the top rules for me of neurodiversity, inclusion and allyship. If I say that I can't work under a rumbly air conditioning because it makes that brown noise sound that sends me to sleep, I'm not trying to be awkward. That is just one of my sensory needs. And so believe me, none of us are trying to make anything up, are we? By the time we actually say anything, generally we've been trying to accommodate everybody else and suffering our own discomfort until it gets too much. So
What I don't seem to understand, Charlie, is that when people are in the office, and we've seen it at the minute, a lot of people have been asked to go back in more than they've ever been. They cut down to 2 days a week, and now you've got to be in 3 or 4 days a week. And I've got, as you know, I'm a coach as well, and I've got clients who have said it's not that they don't want to go in. I will go in, but there may be a day that I will need the autonomy to ring you to say, I haven't got the capacity to come in today. Doesn't mean I'm not going to work, but I'm just going to work in an environment where I feel safe and I'm not going to be overwhelmed. Or again, to your point, if I need to be moved or if I need to have a dedicated desk because I don't like hot desking, that doesn't cost the company anything by allowing them to have the same desk for that continuity, but also gives them the confidence to go in because they know that they've got that one adjustment that helps them to have that ability to go in. And I really don't understand how line managers still say, well, we can't do that. If we do it for you, we've got to do it for everyone.
I think some of them don't understand the definition of reasonable when it comes to reasonable adjustment. I can't even say that. So like before the pandemic, for instance, I had a reasonable adjustment that I could work from home 1 day a week or 2 if I was particularly overwhelmed. Hardly ever used that second day, but it really helped me that it was there. I only worked 4 days a week anyway. After the pandemic, with the return to work, all of my department had to work in the office 2 days a week. So including me. So the reasonable adjustment I had before was out of the window. And the rationale for that is it wouldn't be fair on the others. But I wasn't an HR business partner. I was in a systems role, which is pretty back office and doesn't really require that much face-to-face contact with the rest of my team or with the wider internal client base. So just helping people with what it is that they need to thrive in their role or in their work-life balance, to me, is an absolute win-win. And that's what we need to see more of, because that's what rocks.
Absolutely.
The neurodivergent exec, do you have another example?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the dark side, Charlie, I'm afraid. And I'm going to pick up on a couple of the themes from you lovely people there. So I think one of my most devastating times was asking for help, right? So I was getting into a lot of trouble for not updating things into a system didn't really understand how the system worked, found it boring. So I had my real ADHD block in there around getting it done. Sat down and had a very candid conversation with my manager and was just told that I was being too difficult. I was asking for special treatment. Why did I think that I didn't have to do the things that other people do? So I think it goes back to that point around kindness and compassion. And then if I take that and then spin it to the positive, another manager that I had was phenomenal and was like, do you know what we'll do? We'll just get one of the analysts to sit with you 30 minutes a week. You tell them verbally what you need to do, and it can all go up into the system. Then in return, you'll use the other 30 minutes of a session, so you get them for an hour, and you'll do mentoring with them. And you'll teach them a bit about from your skills and experience. So to me, cost absolutely nothing. Both parties are getting something from it. And ultimately, as a business, you're getting what you need, right? You need that data in the system. There's no point shouting at me about it once a week, right? So anyway, that's me being cheeky.
I just made a real mess up in the comments there. Tried to highlight a comment from my friend Dahlia and accidentally blocklisted her. So sorry. I'll try and work out how to undo that. But yeah, we've got some people joining in the comments. So Sonia Moore is saying, I remember failing SHL's English tests years ago. I now understand why I did. Yeah, that's in response to what Toni was saying about that recruitment process. And Dahlia said, hi, everyone. But unfortunately, I've deleted that. So, yeah, I'm such a scatterbrain. Toni, do you have another example?
Yeah, for me, this is why I always, bang on about leaders should have training on neuroinclusion, right? Because you're dealing with people all the time. Your team will change, the people will change, and it really does make a difference if you have a leader that understands or has, like, what you were saying about the having the empathy. I've had so many bosses in the past, and I would say out of all of them, I only felt comfortable talking about my neurodivergence to 3 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how I've probably had about 20 leaders in the past. And I do think it really does, it makes a huge difference when you have a leader that's open-minded to learn. And that's all it's about at the end of the day. It's about having the open mind to learn, not being stuck of, well, I know how to lead. I've been leading for several years and it's not done me any harm now, because that mentality and that mindset is outdated and it just does not work.
Absolutely. So to me, what works really well with neuroinclusion is remembering that it is about everybody. So it's not about doing something nice for disabled people. Yeah. This is about helping people to thrive in their roles. And you may have people who are neurodivergent and don't even know. Like, I was 42 when I was diagnosed autistic. I already had adjustments in place for anxiety and for IBS. So when I realised I was autistic, we looked at them again and made them more tailored towards me as an autistic individual. I didn't know I had ADHD then, so I've been self-employed since that diagnosis. But it needs to apply to everyone. So one thing that managers can do is get to know people in their team, get to know what helps them, what hinders them. It's inclusion blockers and inclusion enablers. And that's for everyone. It's not just for people who have declared a disability.
But saying that, Charlie, as well, you only know what you know. Because as you know, I'm a qualified workplace needs assessor as well. And, you'll be surprised. I'll recommend something and they'll go, I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even know that was there to kind of help me do X, Y, Z. And that's why I think that, there's some really good intentional conversations at the line manager. They go, so what do you need me to do? And the candidate goes, I don't know, because no one's ever asked me before. I don't know what I need. And they might know that they need some, to work from home or not come in the office so much. But when it comes to the actual context of what can I do differently for you, they might not know the answer.
Absolutely. So when I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, I ended up Googling typical reasonable adjustments for complex PTSD. It gave me a load of ideas. Some of them weren't that valid and weren't that useful. Some of them were. And you can do that a lot with ChatGPT and other AI engines now. Literally describe your role and what you're expected to do and what things you're disabled by and what might help, and it will just reel out all this stuff. But a work needs assessment is a really good way to do it. I had one when, for my access to work claim, Maximus did it, and they suggested a lot of stuff I hadn't even thought of, some of which I actually use, and some of which I still use after the novelty's worn off.
What do you still use after the novelty's worn off, Charlie?
You remember I showed you Mind View?
Yeah.
So I don't use that for my task and project management anymore, but I still use it to mind map. So, like, I used it, I think I showed you how I used it to script my comedy.
Yeah.
I use it to script if I'm talking about something new. So, like, I'm doing a talk on resilience later this week. I've never specifically done that before. So I'll go in there and mind map some themes and then add some other detail, maybe cite some sources in there. So it grows into something that I can then turn easily into a written script or a PowerPoint.
Nice.
Do you know one of the simple ones that I was shown, which is free if you've got Microsoft 365, is OneNote?
Yeah.
I was like, why has nobody ever shown me this before? It's like my Bible. I've got everything in my OneNote. I know exactly where it is. It's all color coded. I can dictate to it. I was like, I can't believe that I never knew this existed.
I've got that because I've got Office 365, but I completely forgot it was a thing. So we used that for performance management and one-to-ones and stuff when I was at SRA. So it was quite cool because if you look at the one-to-ones, you could see all the previous ones. Yeah. So then my manager could see the things that I'd been putting off and cherry picking because they'd just be there month after month. So another what rocks and sucks for me. What rocks is when you feel the psychological safety to be open about your needs. And what sucks is when it turns out that you might feel safe, but that actually there's still value judgments and things going on that you don't know about. So it's like I noticed after my diagnoses that even in HR systems, which is what I was particularly skilled at, and like people even call me the guru, our HR systems guru, I'd still be consulted, but not the things that I recommended never seemed to make it into the senior leadership decisions. So it's like I had this like bias where I wasn't taken seriously anymore because I was openly autistic. So you've got to feel the psychological safety and actually be safe to be open about your characteristics and needs and ideas. If it's all lip service and the discrimination is going on behind closed doors, then it isn't real psychological safety. It's just an illusion of that.
It comes back to those conversations of unconscious biasness. Is that you've told somebody about your neurodivergence and instantly they make an unconscious judgment about you and your ability, even though your ability has never been in question before.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you have another what rocks and rock sucks? Wait, I'm so tongue-tied today.
What rocks and what sucks?
We'll call it word salad, will we, Charlie?
Yeah. The good and the bad. That's easier to say. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. So I think for me, I really connected with what you said. I manage anxiety and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So if I get a message from my manager, can we speak? I assume I'm going to get fired tomorrow. And if you did something really horrendous, like sent that on a Friday afternoon, then finished and then booked in with me on Monday morning, you're going to ruin my whole weekend. So something that works really well, and then also takes us into that space of neuro inclusion and universal design, terms that you helped me understand, Charlie. Thank you very much. Is around agendas for meetings. So I love agenda in advance, right? It's going to quell my anxiety. It's also going to help me perform at my best level, because you're going to have my ADHD brain coming at it from all the different angles to think about how I can help solve the problem, challenge, or the result that we're trying to generate, right? So, and then who doesn't love a clear agenda in advance, right? So then if we step back and think like a business, I've got more productive staff focused on the best outcomes. So I think for me, that's one that's really worked, Charlie and Toni.
Absolutely. I don't think people should schedule meetings if they don't know what's on the agenda.
Yeah.
So if you don't have an agenda, then does it even need a meeting? I don't really get it. But it's that thing about having the time to think and prepare. And the universal design principle that I often quote is sending out job interview questions in advance, because that will benefit lots of people, but not really disadvantage anybody. And the only reason to not do that is that if you think people are going to cheat and they're going to use the time to make up lies, well, they're not likely to do that, because why would they lie themselves into a role that they haven't got the skills to do? It doesn't just help neurodivergent employees, but people for whom English isn't a first language. They've got brain fog because of menopause. There's so many different reasons.
It's an interesting point, Charlie. I was on a management meeting recently where I had proposed this, right? So we're going to go into an interview process, and I wanted the interview questions supplied in advance. And someone got very angry, and they were saying, well, what happens if they use ChatGPT to prep in advance and they're going to have a distinct advantage? And I was like, well, if I had someone that knew how to use AI to help them perform better in a process, I'd quite like to offer them a job. So maybe turn the volume down on that one, pal.
Yeah.
And not only that, is for me, sometimes I can't get what it is I'm trying to say out. So actually, by running it through ChatGPT, just can you simplify it? Because my brain goes 10 to a dozen speed mile hour. Even my husband was saying the other day, he said, you've asked me 3 questions and you've in one space, and I haven't answered one of them yet. And now you've got annoyed with me because I haven't answered you. Your brain's just gone. So if I can prepare in advance, I can calm this down by being prepared and having some notes. And to be fair, I've never gone into an interview reading from my cards. The cards are there just to jog the memory and give me an association. It might be I even just look at the title and then I go, oh, okay, I know what it is that I want to say. Because if you ask me a question on the spot about a competency, I could probably tell you the whole story, but I wouldn't have probably hit all the competencies, because my brain goes off into that I'm going to go down the country route and not give you the straight answer.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
And good old autistic scripting, right? You're going to get a better response if I can script it in advance. I've been scripting my whole life unawarely. Let me do it visibly, and we're going to get some real magic, right?
Yeah,
definitely. So I'm mainly a speaker now, and my kind of main work is lunch and learns. I do a 45-minute speech and then take questions and answers. So I have to be able to answer questions on the spot for that. But so many come up that are the same, you wouldn't believe. And
I know.
the main kind of thing is, how do we get over this issue that we've got with a neurodivergent person whose communication style is upsetting people, and we want to be sympathetic, and I'm thinking that kind of thing, that's just management, surely. What we might have the name neurodiversity and the label neurodivergent and the concept neurodiversity inclusion, but at the end of the day it just comes down to good management and good culture. We've got loads and loads of contributions in the chat, and I'm just having a look through to see which ones to spotlight. So Paula is saying that she found out about her ADHD way too late to have a neuro-inclusive leader, and has been self-employed for 20 years. Was always just the weird one in every job. Yeah, I strongly relate to that. I've only been self-employed for 2.5 years, but I was definitely the weird one in every job. But I think that given that I was in a technical analytical role, that is okay. If the organisation wants to benefit from my strengths, then they need to be patient and supportive with the things that I find difficult. Because it's no good like having a workforce that's made up of good all-rounders and nobody that is actually making a difference. And just that would be the quickest way to stifle innovation and growth, I think.
And just on that point, Charlie, I actually spoke at a conference recently professionally with the corporate job, and we were discussing the impact on a return from an investment of including neuro inclusion as part of your investment strategy. And the data is out there.
Yeah.
If you bring diverse people together, it generates better financial results, right? So it's not even just a nice to have at this point from an organizational point of view.
Yeah, that's true. And it's true of diversity and inclusion in general as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
You hit the nail on the head. You know, I met this lovely lady at a round table that I was delivering, and I've delivered multiple sessions for their organisation. I coach one of their employees, and she said it's just made such a difference that everyone was open to just for one of the lunch and learns, open to having conversations about it. The conversation started, and then I was able to go in and do line management training with them.
Yes.
You know, and even the line management training, they were really engaged. They were all forthcoming, and actually, what they said from the training itself is some of them have gone, "Oh, I can just see some really tangible things that I can change. That's really going to support my team." But not only that, I found strategies for myself as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. If managers can keep that in mind, and you know, we can plant a seed really and give them some strategies, some quick wins, and open their minds to the bigger picture. But they need to keep doing the work, because they will encounter so many different individuals, and actually what's available in terms of accessibility and sensory supports and AI and all that adaptive technology, it's constantly changing.
And as we know, what works for one won't work for another.
Yeah. So I've got a comment from Katie who says when resigning from her last job, she had autism and then was later diagnosed with ADHD. She put in a resignation letter that her hope for the future of the business was that they participated in neurodiversity training. Yeah, isn't it a shame that we're picking up things like that as somebody exits? We need to be talking to people when they're in post to see what the inclusion blockers and inclusion fails are and how they could be better supported.
Oh, sorry, Tony. I was going to say, I'm going to be geeky again. If you consider the cost of replacing an employee, it's going to cost you less to get a trainer in to help the team understand, train the managers, than it is to replace that employee. It can take up to 7 months of their salary to replace them. And then that doesn't even consider the disengagement piece, right? You know the bit when we've silently quit and we're looking for the job and yet they're still paying us, right? So, yeah.
Definitely. And not only that, is that when someone does quit, the cost that it's not just the cost for the organisation, it's the cost for the other employees of having to take additional workload as well. Yeah. So you're generating burnout.
And the Megatron vibes
morale
as well.
of the team, and you lose knowledge workers, and it can affect the employer value proposition as well when recruiting. So especially if we write shitty reviews on Glassdoor and things like that.
I love it when people come to me before the problem starts. You know, we've got several people. We actually want to really commit to support them. We want to put them through a workplace needs assessment. But unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, they come to me when the problem's already hit, and that the individual's on a pip because they're not contributing because they're burnt out. It shouldn't get to that point.
No, absolutely. So I've just got one more comment that I'm going to highlight, and then we need to wrap this up. Michelle coined holistically normal, where every person's normal should be incorporated into the work environment. Yeah, normal for me, normal for them. Yeah, I get it. To be beneficial for the entire organization and the people itself. Yeah, that sounds really cool. So, yeah, we're not automatons. We're all individuals. My friend Sam was here. She would shout, "I'm not." But we need to understand that different people have differing needs, and that no one's trying to be awkward.
No.
That we shouldn't have to prove anything. We don't need to wait until someone's in distress or burnout to support them and be patient with their challenges. And we're going to be doing more of these. I think we've definitely got one coming where I'm going to read out some emails that we've been sent anonymously, talking about where people have experienced discrimination at work on the grounds of disability and they're neurodivergent. And for whatever reason, maybe they signed an NDA or they just don't want to be blacklisted from future jobs, but they've written to us and we're going to read them out. That will be a difficult one. And I don't think there'll be much what rocks to dress that up with.
But maybe we can certainly give some advice, right?
Yeah.
Once we've read them out, maybe we could give that individual virtually, anonymously, some advice to help and support them as well.
But I'm trying to give a voice to people who don't currently have one due to a confidentiality clause or a lack of psychological safety or otherwise. So maybe we'll do that next month. And
next month's December. It'd be
Christmas. We're not going to do the dreaded C word again, are we? Surely, Toni.
But it is next month.
Christmas edition last year, and yeah. I'm coughing at the thought of Christmas already.
We've discussed this is not as bad as you think, remember?
No, it's not. Yeah, it just needs some planning and preparation. And do either of you have any final thoughts before we end this live stream and get on with all the other things we're crazy busy with?
I just want to say thank you to the Neurodiversity Exec for coming on today and sharing her experience with us.
And I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me. This is my favourite podcast. So I'm honoured to be here. Thank you very much.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. It's been really difficult to not use your name, but
I appreciate it. You nailed it, Charlie and Toni. Bravo.
Thank you so much.